I received a question from subscriber Wolf Realm. How should authors go about approaching artists for book cover and or character design? Do we have to write up legal contracts or anything when commissioning a piece of artwork? How would you go about reaching out to an artist? This is a great question, and I'm going to answer it as thoroughly as I can. I'm going to take it in two parts. The first part is where to find an illustrator. The second part is how to handle the legal business part with the illustrator. All right. So first things first, where do you find an illustrator? Where I would start, and this is just me, I would look at your traditional book cover designers and see which ones offer illustrations as an additional service. For example, if a book cover costs, I'm just going to use Monopoly money, $10. Your standard book cover costs $10. For $50, the designer will illustrate your cover per the vision that's in your mind's eye. You can communicate with them on what you want on the cover. Now, a designer that I use that I've used to great effect for some illustrated covers is Mibble Art. I'll put the name of the company on the screen here, and you can check them out. And they offer a great illustrated package, and it's affordable. And you can get 5% off your order by going to authorlevelup.com/mibbleart, and they have a very fast turnaround. That's what I like about that service. There are plenty of other book cover designers out there that do illustrations. That's where I would start. The reason I would start there is because, one, this is a true book cover designer. Two, they have experience doing illustrations. And then three, you can be reasonably assured that you're going to get the cover within a reasonable time frame, and it's going to be relatively affordable. That's the thing. So there are some people who will go to places like DeviantArt or ArtStation or other places where artists hang out and they post their profiles, and they'll look for someone who has the same artistic aesthetic as what you're trying to go for on your cover. This can backfire on you in a couple of ways. It can be very successful, but it can also backfire on you. And let me explain why. The first reason is if you commission an artist who has no experience with book covers, you're going to get art that looks really great, but you're going to get typography and other elements on the book cover that may not really make sense. So what a lot of people will do, and this makes it more expensive, is they will hire an illustrator to illustrate the scene on the cover, and then they'll hire another designer to handle the typography. Because if you've been around for a long time, you kind of know there's some cover designers who do a really good job with like the images and stuff, but the typography is not so good. And there's some designers who are amazing at typography, but the actual composition of the images may not be as strong as other people. So you're going to have this working against you. And so that's why you want to hire an illustrator who has experience actually doing book covers that either sell or that look visually appealing based on what's in your genre. The second way this can backfire on you is if you hire an artist who flakes out on you. Now, I say this with great love and respect for my artist friends, but sometimes you hire some folks who they don't have the business sense, they don't have the savvy. They'll start working on a project and then they just drop off the face of the earth for a while. And then you're kind of left holding the bag. You desperately want to avoid this type of situation, which is why I think you should always go with someone who has experience designing book covers and who has a track record of designing book covers. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where the artist agrees to do the book design in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then 6 weeks passes or 2 months passes or 3 months passes, and you're still waiting on the art. So that's how you find your illustrator. All right. Now, what do you do when you found that illustrator that ticks off all the boxes? Well, as Wolf Realm mentioned, a legal contract is a very important thing to do. What should be in your legal contract? Now, I'm not an attorney and I'm not giving you legal advice, but here are some things that I would think about. First thing I would think about is making sure that you protect yourself from any allegations of copyright infringement. So if the artist designed something but turns out they didn't design it, you want to protect yourself against that. So a hold harmless or indemnification clause. The contract might say something to the tune of the artist represents that the material they provide, they have full copyrights to and full ability to license that material to you. Another thing you want to think about is the licensing. All right, so a question comes up to me relatively often of who owns the copyright to a book cover? Well, the answer is the designer owns the copyright to the book cover unless you sign a contract that says otherwise. So be thinking about the licensing. There are a lot of people that are going to want the copyright. which makes a lot of sense because you want to be able to do whatever you want with the book without having to come back to the designer. But that's going to cost you some more money. So if you're not willing to pay that, then you have to think about the license. But most importantly, you want to put some dates on that contract. All right. So artist agrees to deliver the rough sketch to you by X date. All right. And author agrees to provide feedback by X date. Artist agrees to provide the colorized version of the design by X date. Author agrees to provide feedback to that by X date. Designer agrees to provide the final files and PSDs by X date. All right. Just put some dates on there. That will help keep both you and the artist accountable when they are creating the material. Another important thing with a contract is, don't go crazy with a contract with an artist. I mean, there's some people I know who will draft up a contract that's like 10 pages. Don't do that. To me, that's just disrespectful to the designer, right? I mean, come up with a contract that's like 1 page that hits all the bases that are important to you and the designer that you come to an agreement on, and make it in plain English. You don't have to use legalese. As I've said on this channel for a long time, it all boils down to hiring the right person. If you hire the right person and spend the time and energy to pick the right artist up front, everything else will go smoother, especially if you can get on that same page before you sign the contract. So I would just urge that if you do want to go this route, just don't lose track of what's happening in your genre. There are a lot of people who they just want to illustrate scenes from their novel on their cover, and that's not really a good idea. So don't take your finger off the pulse of what's happening in your genre just because you want to illustrate something on your cover. You also want to make sure that you're following the conventions of the genre, that you're creating a book cover that's appealing, but more importantly, that you're creating a book cover that is going to signal to your readers what your book is about and that it's going to hit the right readers at the right time. That's the most important thing when you're hiring for a book cover, whether it be an illustration or not. Just don't forget that, because otherwise you can spend a whole lot of money on an illustration that may not do you very much good. If you want more videos on book cover design and working with a designer to create an amazing design, stay tuned because there's another video coming up right now.
Perfect.